Welcome, everyone, to a KE Report webinar produced in conjunction with Focus Communications. My name is Corey Fleck. I am your host for this webinar. This is quite the anticipated webinar as I am featuring Graphene Manufacturing Group. I am joined by the founder and CEO, Craig Nicol, as well as the CFO, Joshua George. I have had Graphene Manufacturing Group on my show, the KE Report, a lot over the last few years. And this is a company that I get probably the most feedback from, the most questions and emails from my listeners on the company's three different divisions. The company has the Thermal XR, G Lubricant, and battery division, all using the company's graphene production that they have their own proprietary solution for. I'm going to let the guys run through the presentation here. It is an overview of the company, so we already apologize for anyone who is up to speed on this company and has individual questions. We will have a Q&A period at the end of this webinar, so please send me all your questions through the Q&A function within this platform or on the chat function. I'll organize all these questions and we'll get to as many as we can. Some of the more technical questions we'll need to leave for future interviews, and I'll put you in touch with the guys at GMG to answer some of those more technical questions. This really is all about the products, the take-to-market strategy, and again, getting your questions answered. So, Craig, Joshua, thank you for taking time to put together this presentation right before Easter over here in North America. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. I hope you all find this informative. I'm going to let the guys run with the presentation now, and I'll jump back in for the Q&A at the end of the webinar.
Thanks, Corey. Josh and I both thank everybody on the call to spend some time with us going through this. We are going to go through an overview just so that everybody has understanding of where we're at. I apologize up front for anyone who's seen it before. There will be probably things here that you may not have seen. And then at the end, we'll definitely have our questions. And I understand there's plenty already. So I'm sure you all know that Graphene Manufacturing Group, GMG, is on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the ventures, and also on the OTCQX. Usual disclaimer for forward-looking statements about companies of such high growth focus like ourselves. We have our board, which has now been in place for nearly 2 years, and the restructure has been focused on having an Australian-American, North American outlook, and that has, I think, really helped us to really solidify this strategy of getting into commercial operations into the North American market, with Jack as chair and Bob as non-executive director. Both substantial knowledge in manufacturing businesses as well as in batteries as well. The business develops, makes and sells these 4 products. We are currently selling or in the market with products being tested by customers through 3 of them: the Thermal XR heat exchange coating system, the G Lubricant automotive fluid additive, and the Super G, which is a graphene slurry for lithium-ion batteries. Obviously, the battery is in development. What does our graphene focus on? It focuses on 3 main things: ion storage, thermal conductivity, enhanced lubrication. It's a carbon wonder product that does many other things, and our focus has always been on how to get a very clear outcome for the product, rather than just focusing on how amazing the product is, how amazing the graphene is. So those are the 3 things that we focus on, and those are the 3 things that we actually put into in our products as well. We have a differentiation. It's a core competence of our company is to actually build our own graphene production system from natural gas, and with a byproduct of hydrogen doped methane at the end, creates a very, very pure carbon product, which enables us to get to reactions what we have with our product outcomes. Otherwise, graphene is typically made out of graphite, and there are other things that happen with that. That's a different product. That's called graphene oxide. We make graphene. Operations, we take natural gas, we put it through our module graphene plant. We put that into our blending plant, which is up to 1 million liters of coating blending capacity. We put that graphene then into small amounts into our G lubricant pilot plant, and then we also have a slurry pilot plant as well to make our Super G. And then we have our battery development center, which is there developing the batteries on a daily basis. We had just announced this product, which was 8 years in the making. We call it G Lubricant. It's a fantastic product. Here it is here. It's true kind of dark horse. It took a long time to get here, but that's because with such big opportunities like this, they need to have enormous amount of data. So the product is available for sale now, and it is selling. It's a 1% mix of graphene in oil, and that provides at 1% ratio mixed into an engine oil that has proven now to provide an 8.4% fuel savings in diesel engine. This has been verified by the University of Queensland. We are already getting back feedback from customers, and so far everybody is 8 or above percent. This is obviously a massive market, and it's more than a couple of $1 trillion of fuel that is seen or sold around the world, including taxes, and that's the market we're focusing on. You can see here the opportunity for the light commercial rigid truck and articulated trucks. The articulated truck is really our target market, and we've just launched the advertising in Australia, both in many different magazines, on truck radio, and also on in newspapers. We'll be at the Brisbane Truck Show, working with them, which is the biggest truck show in Asia Pacific, coming month, and focusing on owner drivers who are 90% of the market, who could really benefit in having another $6,500 in their pocket per truck from fuel costs. The G lubricant is sold at a small percentage of that price, that cost reduction. Moving on to, I'm sure there'll be more questions around that, so we'll move on to the other products. The Super G is out for testing, and there's a number of big companies who are testing that. We're in the Forbes magazine at the end of last year when we mentioned this, with university studies showing the benefit of our Super G, our graphene slurry, which is basically half of our aluminum battery, enables very fast ion transfer. Now, Thermal XR, which is the product that's been out there for probably a good year now with solid outcomes with various different test performance data. Last year was an amazing year for us. We got 5 different awards, some world leading that others have never been received. The coating is focused on air conditioning aftermarket, and also now working with large manufacturers of air conditioners to help them heat transfer, industrial plants, heat sinks for electronics, that includes battery packs for lithium-ion batteries, data centers, and also refrigeration. There are other markets that are emerging, but they're the large ones we're focusing on. We did now have received a Singapore Green Building Product Award, which is a good rating for energy savings, which is at 10%. We've had substantial amount of work done with different customers in Singapore. It's probably the best country, high electricity costs and low labor costs, to get our product out there. There's a lot of air conditioning, and that was a true milestone, given that the Singapore Green Building Product Code is well respected around the world for having energy savings at its heart, and that was built after years of work. We also won the Australian Industry of Air Conditioning Awards for Product of the Year. This was substantial progress for the coating to be accepted as a product like this in this industry. It's a $16 billion industry in Australia, is showing that we are getting acceptance, although slow. Just some performance data. That coating basically doubles the heat transfer coating, heat transfer effect of the normal aluminium. And then right now we're at 15,000 hours, which is, I think, shortly going to be updated with more hours with corrosion resistance of salt sea spray test, which means it's one of the longest lasting corrosion-free paints in the world. And to do that whilst having twice the heat transfer is really special product and still quite unique. Obviously, patents are progressing, and that will help. But really, it's about getting sales. What does it do? Well, it basically increases your thermal radiation by 8 times. And thermal radiation is the kind of long lost cousin of heat transfer, and it is used in some spaces, but it can be used in air conditioners, and we've proven that, and that's why we're able to achieve the huge energy savings we can get. So what can it do for miniaturization of heat sinks? About 39% size reduction. That's because we basically double the heat transfer rate once we're coating the same heat sink. So we are talking, and we are testing with many different companies in this space. It is an adjustment for people to understand how it works, but it is a massive opportunity for the company. We are still waiting for the EPA approval for Coolworks launch, which is the TXR name for the co-branded new Calgon distributor, which we have in North America. The PMN was submitted at the end of last year. We have got feedback. There's been a lot of engagement. They are doing the risk assessments, or going through them. This is the only way to get a graphene product approved in America. We have otherwise approvals to be able to sell this in Australia, Canada, Mexico, China, Europe, pretty much everywhere else in the world, but America. We currently expecting this approval to come through by the end of the year. There was a chance for it to come a bit faster with a greener product approved environmental product improver fast track with the EPA, but that has now been removed with the new administration. So really December, which we've always said publicly where we think we were going to see, it is the currently our belief that we think we'll get it before the end of the year, and probably not before. With the battery, we continue to get extreme amount of interest in this. The battery use case is a fast B2B, a fast charging B2B battery. With lithium, you need to take a lot longer to charge, especially with very large packs that businesses need. They also want a safe battery. They don't want the potential for it to catch fire. They want a long life battery, and they're willing to pay a bit more for it. That's our business case. There's really basically no other technology in that space. There's a lot of companies that would love to use it, a lot of products that would love to be using it. It is a completely new type of technology, and we're progressing that as fast as we can. We are currently at BTRL 4, which is Battery Technology Readiness 4, which is optimization of all the electrochemistry. We are currently also working with the Battery Innovation Center of Indiana, and the BIC, as we call it, Indiana is one of the most experienced BICs in the world, with more than 500 battery development projects. They'll be able to help us scale, help us with the optimization, but really they're focused on helping us scale. Also, they'll be testing our Super G and our Thermal XR on battery packs and showing you how it can help reduce cooling for lithium-ion batteries. The attractiveness about our battery is the power density, that big green bar. It's very fast charging. It's a very simple, robust battery. You can see the components there. Graphene on the cathode, separator, foil on the anode, and then aluminium salt liquid electrolyte. That is how simple it is. We've had some pretty large companies that know what they're doing, world leading through our battery development center, and they see that they're genuinely gobsmacked. It is something that is generally seen as the holy grail for an aluminium-ion battery, safe, fast charging, and long life with good energy density is really where people see as kind of almost one of the final frontiers of battery development. So we are heavily focused on working on this in getting there and getting a product out that is optimized best to its performance requirements, and then continuing to work on the multiple opportunities that this battery has. As we said, we're basically working on a multi-layer pouch with this scaling of the cell through electrolyzer optimization. You then work on the pouch cell, which we're going to be no longer using the pilot plant, but we'll be working with the BIC to do that in the next phase. And then after that, you do a large commercial factory. These are the multiple things that we are testing. We've had over 1,000 individual pouch cells made to test various different, what I would call different dimensions of the battery performance. It is a case where you can get 8 there, and then you realize you've got 1 or 2 left, so you could go back and redo optimization around that one. And it is worth it. That's the best way I can describe it. We are making good progress, and we feel we're genuinely working in a space that nobody else is as well, from what we've seen. The battery cell roadmap, therefore, is basically to pull together the BIC with performance data and get cells tested, and finally produce them. It's at a point where we can send them to partners, and we expect that to do this year. Then we review the opportunity for a battery scale-up plant investment decision, and then in 2026 and then 2027, we'll be looking at pulling that together. It's using all the same equipment than battery plants for lithium batteries, so its ability to be scaled is relatively simple compared to other battery technologies that are coming through, say like solid state or some others out there. So there is a benefit that once we get through the optimization, we believe it's going to be faster to get to market, because it is quite a simple battery to get there. Over to you, Josh, to go through the finance space.
Thanks, Craig. Happy Easter to everyone in North America tomorrow and here in Australia. Thanks for having me, Corey. I guess I'll quickly go through this slide. I can see a lot of questions coming through as well, but and a lot of those questions sort of focused on a number of these things on this slide. So we've certainly been maturing our sales capability, and as Craig said, the EPA approval has certainly delayed revenue generation for the US. We are talking to just potential distributors in other parts of the world as well, including Asia and Europe and the UK. We've had a number of large global companies that we are targeting to work with. Through that presentation, you can see we've had a great relationship with Rio for a couple of years, and we are talking with Rio now about extending that agreement. They're really happy with the progress of the battery and that joint development agreement. But there are other large global players we've been talking to for potential JDAs and partnerships as well. We're fortunate to receive research and development tax rebates from the Australian government, and have been successful every year getting those grants received. And in Australia, with a change of government, it's at the state level in Queensland where we are, and with a federal election in a couple of weeks for Australia, there'll be all sorts of change. So we'll certainly be keeping abreast and working with both state and federal levels of government on exploring any grants and incentives that might be on offer for a business like ours. We've got about 10 million Aussie in the bank at the moment, and as you can see, our sort of outstanding shares is about 107 million, with warrants and RSUs and in the money options. That's probably about an extra sort of 12% dilution, so maybe closer to 120 million fully diluted. As a lot of you would be aware, we have an ATM in place with Cantor as well, which we haven't really used that much in the last sort of 6 to 9 months. But a lot of focus on costs in the last 12 months. The business has really focused on keeping its costs under control and getting a good understanding of its sort of operations and potential expansion plans. So, that's a stronger cash position and a balance sheet that we've had for a little while now. So, looking healthy going forward. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Josh. So I think that ends the formal slides and see lots of questions. So maybe back to you,
Craig,
Corey.
there are a lot of questions that have come in here. I have been busy trying to organize these. Good thing I'm up to speed on this story because we have questions on every division here. We probably had about 40, 50 questions come in here. So thank you, everyone, for sending these in. I'm working to still organize them. Let's start generally then. That there does seem to be a lot of questions around. Let's start with this whole potential uplisting on a U.S. exchange. A couple of questions around that. Will you be going to a U.S. exchange? Any listings or any thoughts on listing on the Australian exchange? Take us through this question first, please.
Yeah, I think Josh, over to you, mate.
Yeah, happy to answer that. Obviously, being listed for a few years on Toronto, we've had some good experiences there and some not so good experiences. I think there are a few questions about shorting and all sorts of things for going to a larger exchange. I can tell you that we've experienced that in Toronto as well. So I don't think that's going to be too much different. But as you've all probably heard and read, we are definitely considering the US and a larger exchange. It's been, I guess, a strategy for the company for some time that the US is a natural home for our business. Our investors, a production facility or more, certainly access to cheaper gas, natural gas, and moving to a US exchange certainly has been part of the plan, and having, I guess, extra experience on the board now for the last sort of 18 months with Jack Bukowski is helping that, and we're partnering up with a well-known investment bank that we've been working with, and that's certainly the strategy that we're pursuing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just a lot of questions, I guess, how you're going to get that out there even further.
I did see a lot of those questions.
Yeah. Hey, that's fine. Well, I'm sure you'll let us all know when you decide or what exchanges you go on. Craig, in terms of graphene production in Australia, and it sounds like a plan to make graphene in the US. What about other countries as well? Take us through that timeline and that process of expanding your graphene production geographically.
Yeah, good question. So right now we're at about half a ton of graphene production. It's always been focused on quality. So that means we only need to put in 0.01% into our into say a dew lubricant. That is a remarkably small amount because the quality is there. We are focused right now on developing a next-gen technology. That next-gen technology, we believe we can implement this year. We have yet to sign off on it. We're calling it second gen, because that's just what you call it when you're trying to develop a new technology. That has the opportunity to be multiple times more production rate than our current one. And we believe also the quality will be where we need it as well. So there should be more on this in the coming months, but we really focused on significantly upgrading our graphene production technology per plasma unit, basically. It's still using plasma, still using natural gas, but it's just the next gen. Now, once we have that up and running, we believe then that we can then move on to a kind of a more national or international footing. I think America, for everything that's going on in the world right now, but probably America is probably still the place where we would build it. Canada's still there as well. and we have some potential other opportunities, but in other parts of the world. But really, I think North America is really the next space, mainly because natural gas is so abundant, and also the costs are so low. It's not a big factor in our product costs. It's not the biggest. Graphene is not the biggest cost in our products. But it's, as we want to scale, we want to bring that cost down collectively, as well as also, creating, having this, opportunity with the battery, because you've really got to get to a low cost per kilogram on the when you start making batteries at scale. You've got to get below $20 a kilo, and even more. That's what lithium-ion batteries need to be. That's where we need to be. And we really need a big graphene production to get that real scale.
Okay, so this second generation graphene production, there were a few questions on that. Mm-hmm. What will it do to cost potentially? And when do you think it will be ready? When can you launch this?
Yeah, we're not expecting a large amount of money in terms of capital. Got a modular plant already built, so we can genuinely extend or expand that quite easily. It's kind of very low digit millions. So we're working through that. It's not going to be a substantial amount of money for what we need to do to show, in terms of the outcome as well. It'll really put us into another level of being able to scale faster as well at a lower capital. And that'll mean our products will look even more attractive than they already are.
Okay. A couple questions on patents for any of the products here to prevent competitors from entering the markets with graphene alternatives. Do you have patent protection? What else do you need to do on this front? Explain, please.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. And it's really hard to answer because patents are just so nebulous. And the more you go on about them, the more people might want to attack them. So your competitors. So you kind of just want to get things done, and you just want to get them approved, and you just tell people, bang, they're all approved. But basically, they're all being progressed. We feel confident about them all. In different countries, they're already very significantly progressed. In other countries, they've just got to bring them across. It all comes down to times. It's a very strange law, patents. It's all about what date you submitted things, and everything that we know is we were doing the things that we were doing before anybody else. So we feel comfortable about that coming through as a patent. So if I was going to say, where it's going to be, I reckon next year we could have a lot of the patents clear in major markets, but they've got to go around each country. They've got to do their own thing. But we feel comfortable, with the thermal XR patent, with the G lubricant patent, and with the battery patent. And the graphene is a trade secret. It's an enormous amount of IP now. It's all computer controlled. There's no manual operation, so it's really a software as much as hardware, and all the chemistry and energy balance that we do to make it, and then how the graphene gets processed. There's an enormous amount of knowledge and all that as well. It's all pretty much done now, standard everyday operations, but it's taken years to get to. So, that is another way. It's what we've called as a downstream patent fence. So the patents include a reference to the product being made from natural gas, which is a very few companies in the world do it. And then it talks about the rate of dosage and how they're prepared. It's very particular to the product. And so we picked these verticals, and we're trying to protect those verticals, and we think we can globally in major markets with these patents. But it's just a progress. And we always try to put more detail in the patent press releases, but we end up pulling it out because it ends up just being more of a problem in telling people how complex it is. You've got 20 countries, and you're trying to progress each one and what the ins and outs mean. But they are progressing well in what we see.
Is there a focus on any certain country then, or is this just a global?
Generally you got to, what you do is you have these global kind of agreements that you work under. So we submit ours to Australia. Sometimes we submit to other countries, but generally submit it to Australia, and then that means everywhere in the world goes to the Australian timeline. And then, so then you drop into, say, America or China or Europe or Canada, and under the timeline that you submitted in an Australian office. So that's why it's each country is committed to work within the timeline that you originally submitted the patent, but it's got to do its own thing too. So it's commanded to basically work with everyone else's timeline, but then in the end, each country needs to hold their own patent review, and that's what they all do. But they all pretty much look at the same information and how they review it, but they have the right to do it themselves.
Okay. Sales and revenue. Boy, oh boy,
Yep.
A lot of questions on this. Craig, you and I talk about this every time I have you on my show. Some comments being made that there's still no news about sales. Do we have a timeline to some sales numbers? A lot of people asking when the break even might be for the company. Joshua, maybe you can address some of these, but what clarity can either of you give us on revenue, sales from any of the three divisions?
Yeah. And, it's what we fight every day, focus on. Our whole entire business is focused on this. We're transforming from an R&D product development, which is literally develop some of the best products that I think in this space that are available. And now we're transforming into a commercial operation, which means, in my mind, that means, a very large percentage of people in the business are in sales. And that takes time. We're obviously working with many different companies, trying all the different products with all the biggest you could possibly name in all those different sectors we've been saying, plus more. The opportunity for people to buy our product is there, but they need to understand what is the benefit for them and what's the risk. And the risk sometimes for big companies is just going too early is something that they need to manage more than the opportunity, which could be big, even if they do believe everything that they see. And so that's what every company needs to work on. There is a point at which you'll start to see some big companies come across, and then I think you'll see just a lot more come faster after that. And that point is, we're pushing for every day to get to that as fast as we can. G Lubricant is now selling. We aim to launch g-lubricant.com in pretty short order. That means anyone in the world can buy it on our own e-commerce store. It gets delivered to anywhere in the world. That goes into a 50-litre oil sump capacity. So that's one large truck. It's worth something like $150 or so, and it'll save them potentially $1,000 to $6,000. Depends on how long the oil lasts that they change out. So that there is a product that we can ship around the world economically for us, make good money, and start selling. We see that as something we also want to then do in Thermal XR. Thermal XR is it's a simple process, but because it's quite particular on how it's coded, it ends up being complex in people's minds. So we're working on really reducing the complexity, and we're basically calling them small packs. So these small pack, and then a small pack for Thermal XR, our coding, that then we'll also be selling on thermalxr.com, so people can actually buy direct to wherever they want, their business or their house. And that kind of breaks the nexus, because we got big companies who are looking at us saying, where's your revenue? And then I'll work with you. And then we're looking at them going, well, where's your revenue? Because you want to work with us. So we're trying to break that nexus. Obviously, distributors come along and you can work with them. But that all feeds itself. It's all feeding off everything else. So we're working on small packs, and you should see that launch in the coming months. It's a pretty intense process. That's what we're doing a lot of work on. Individual customers, or obviously, commercial sales is the end game. But we need to put the pieces together, and that's not going to be done overnight. But also, you need as many pieces together that you can, so that all firing to be able to give you as much as possible to build into this momentum. So, our website will have the ability for people to put, their feedback on how much fuel they saved and the air conditioning, how much energy they saved. And then their coding can be used for many different applications. It's amazing corrosion resistant product. So, how does that get into people's heads? How do we build that into a market as well? That's also on our minds. The opportunity right now we're really focusing on is trucks and advertising a product in this market. There's basically nobody else in this space. But after that, you've got construction, you've got farm, you've got marine, you've got leisure marine, you've got power generation. And every one of those is going to need special advertising, promotion, pack sizes. And then you've got 34 countries that do all of that sufficiently that we're attracted to. They buy more than $10 billion worth of diesel. So that's the market we're in. It's immense. It's like nothing, I think, in terms of a clean piece of paper. So in order to do that, we're building the next sales team. So we have the A products now. Now we need to build the A team for sales. And you'll see some people coming on board around that. That's going to be, the next phase of the business. So we've got to build a sales team and marketing team that is effectively like the biggest part of the organization, because the operations are very efficient, low cost, and will be easy to get to. Once we start to get significant sales, will be easy to take care of in terms of, overheads. So that shouldn't grow too much. So it's more around just getting the sales guys in the right markets, in the right countries, and each of the products, and they're all connected. So generally what we find is these companies that we talk to, they want to try every one of our products. They'll put it into a refrigerator, or they'll put it on an air conditioning unit. They'll put it in their batteries. They'll also want to talk to us about the aluminium-ion battery technology, all four. And there's, that it's bamboozling for them. And sometimes we've got to try to work out which one do we want to work on so that we don't overload them with all the information. Or sometimes they're capable and they've got many people, so we work with all of them at the same time. And then we've got to work out how many do we need to work with. That's like, you can't just work with an endless number. And that's where we think marketing and online purchasing can help, because people can just buy online, try it and work it and see what they're doing and come back.
So, Craig, let's go down that road a little bit more, because I think that is confusing for some people when they hear you need a sales and marketing team, but we keep hearing about how many different companies in all kinds of different sectors are testing these products. And as you said, these products are somewhat related. So companies are interested in multiple products. Why aren't any of these companies that are currently testing these products, why can't they get pushed over the line? Why aren't there sales coming from these guys yet, where you don't need a big sales and marketing team? Just deal with the people already testing these products.
Yeah, that's a great question. And these guys aren't going to roll over on a tech until they really understand what it is. It's so transformative. I think that's what people need to understand. It's just so different to what people are used to using. And that may seem like it's an excuse, but it's not. I've been selling energy products basically all my life, and working with companies to get there to buy products, and it is such a big leap for people to get to. And these people, I was in one of them, and same with Josh. These companies have genuinely lower risk appetite people working in them, because they're trying to manage the political career and everything else going on in their life. So they don't want to go and make big decisions without a lot of evidence, because otherwise their political space might be short-lived. So they need repeated performance on our products, and we will find there are so many applications now that we're working through that we will find many that will work, but I can't say that they will all be immediately coming across. Some will take much longer than others, but some is the G lubricant is quite simply the easiest thing to see. You put it in your engine, you see it straight away, and I think that could really help people get there on the thermal XR, because people go, oh well, if that works, then maybe we should look at that a bit more. But it's not for anything but people trying. There's enormous amounts of work going on, and the economics are there. It's just really about people wanting to create a new vision that has something that they haven't thought of before involved in their company, and that just takes some time.
Okay, let's talk more about the G Lubricant division then. You said it's on sale on the web. There were specific questions. Is it on sale in the EU? Are there any approvals needed to bring it to the European market? And actually, quite frankly, where else is it available to be purchased around the world?
So we're selling all over the world, in Europe, America, Canada. We very clearly say, only one pack into America for R&D. You can sell right now into America, but only for R&D, and no bulk quantities. We've really got to get an EPA approval for that. But right now, all the approvals are in place to be able to sell this everywhere. So yeah, this product's being tested in all different parts of the world, and then as the stories come in, that'll feed, I think, more testimonials, which will feed better reactions, which will feed then, we think, more sales, and get that kind of almost viral opportunity going. So the approvals for lubricant and TXR are there. It's just America that we need to work through for G Lubricant, really, and obviously TXR.
Okay, so it's still the US EPA approval that you need. Now, the path to significant revenue for G Lubricant, is it, at least in the near term, is it a B2B, business to business, or is it a B2C, more to the consumer standpoint as it stands right now in terms of getting near-term revenue?
Yeah, look, it's always B2B, so we're always focusing on businesses. Our products can be bought by any business in the world and used by any business in the world. That's the focus. But what we're really talking about is multiple channels. So direct marketing is, I guess what we're saying. So B2B direct marketing, which is online, and we're on truck radio, we're on truck magazines, and you can scan a QR code and it gets shipped to you through buying it online. So that's already up and running in Australia, and then we'll just roll this out through different countries around the world. We can get it on Amazon and eBay. It's very simple to do once you've got it worked out, and that's what these marketers people bringing on. There's a lot of work to launch that, and managing all the social media, and really providing that kind of getting people to be aware that it's there. That's really a lot of that work. So, but we think then that'll help build the B2B direct B2B commercial kind of conversation. So you have your B2B direct online, people get to see it, they can buy it, they can use it, simple. So the kind of more early adopters, kind of single people business, kind of single truck owners maybe can use them and get feedback and start building revenue. And there's 80 million truck drivers on Facebook alone. So the market for these products is massive. We just got to get this into people's minds that it's possible. Get some early adopters to buy it, use it, and that's what we're doing right now. So we've probably got more than 350,000 views on Facebook on this product. We're pulling together animations which will go on YouTube, so people can see what it does on YouTube and then buy off that. And then starting to get some early adopters getting good responses, and then that'll then build into the larger business teams, which are business deals, which are obviously already in progress, but they're all looking at who's going to go first.
Can you give us a ballpark number then of how many people, even how many trucks, or how many vehicles, let's say, G Lubricant has actually been tested on to date?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think we've exact numbers kind of escape me, but I think we're basically trying to get it into probably about 10 fleets right now after about 2 months of launching. So 10 fleets or so, which will then provide us some input, which will then provide us with the ability to get people to give solid feedback from well-known fleets. I think that the trouble with a fleet is they typically have a pretty warranty focused, rightly, younger, earlier trucks. Those trucks are designed for 99.95% uptime, and something new like this, even though it's just carbon, which is already in the oil, that gets a bit they get a bit nervous about, rightly so. So the work that we're focusing on is finding those early adopter truck fleets that don't have the brand new fleets that can do some things out of warranty, and there are them, and there are those out there, and they're the ones who are who've said they're willing to try. And then you get a couple of those guys through. We've already got feedback on some really good feedback from people who've tried it, but we're really waiting for those big fleet guys to be able to come back and go, yeah, that's what I found. And then
is one of the holdups for this, because this is an oil additive, that it could cause insurance problems for the truck users or for the manufacturers at any point?
Probably just warranty potential items. It's really not. I mean, I'll put it in my own vehicles. Lots of people at GMG have put it in their own vehicles and seen benefits. I don't think it's really kind of a harm issue. It's people just wondering, well, first of all, what is it? What is graphene? And then once they get through that, they go, okay, fair enough. It's a 0.01% of carbon in the oil. And in a diesel engine, you go up to 3 to 8% of carbon, which is soot. So this is 300 times less carbon than you would normally have in an engine oil before you replace it. Okay, so it's really small amount of carbon, fair enough. It's then go, well, what is that going to do to my OEM's warranty, which is what I'm using. I'm using that to push them to give me the best, outcome on the truck. And that then, is the real reason for the earlier truck companies or the newer truck companies to really, not probably put this up front. And we do say online, we do say on the pack, best use on out of warranty engines right now. Now, the way around that is you get an API approval. We're working on an API approval, which is the American Petroleum Institute, which enables you to say, well, it has an API approval, which is then compliant with your engine warranty. But in the meantime, there's 10 million trucks in China that are overloaded. Generally, from what we hear, overloaded, which is the perfect target market for us. And they're old, they're out of warranty. So we're basically in the preparation of setting up GMG China to start selling in China, and really focus on launching G lubricant in that market. Now that's just another element of trying to get to the end market in a way which we can start getting sales. And then building that, book that makes everyone realize that this is something that the really big guys and OEMs should take on.
Okay. You're going to be able to press release that API approval for this G lubricant when it comes?
Yeah,
it's
hard. It's hard work. It is hard work. It's simple. It should be simple. We're working with big oil companies. We're working with two-tiered and additive manufacturers, and it is hard work. It's designed to be, kind of slow you down to get an approval. Existing oil companies generally have the API approval pretty easy to push through. The work is that generally you don't get an additive with an API approval, but we're working on a strategy to get one. It's just that they don't typically do it. That's the issue. So yeah, I think the work on the API approval is important, but only when you've got really good sales happening in other parts of the world where you're basically trying to get your early adopters to move these trials along. So that's the most important thing right now. Get as many people trying it as possible and get some big fleets, and we've got some of those, and then get some customer testimonials from those, and then use all the relationships we already have, because a lot of these big truck companies that we were talking to for thermal XR, and they're already testing. So we don't need to go and establish new relationships. They're there already. Another application for G lubricant is in small compressors, And we've seen a pretty good reduction in energy, 5 to 6% in small compressors. So we're already talking to the air conditioning companies in that space. And we say, well, why don't we talk about G-lubricant there as well? So a lot of it is connected, and it is pretty intense work. It's not for nothing. It's a lot of work, but that's the fun. That's the bit that I think we like, and that's the bit that we're committed to doing. That's the next team we're going to be working on. We're already in that space now. Basically, bring on a whole new sales team, a whole new global sales team, because that's what the business really needs now, and that's what we've been doing.
Why not just go out there and just start giving out all kinds of these G-lubricant products and just letting people test it with your existing relationships? Or even to that point, a few questions coming in. What about your relationship with Rio Tinto? Their partner on the battery division. I'm sure they could use G-lubricant. Are they testing that out? Is there any synergy there?
Yeah, so you definitely can give out free product, and people don't necessarily get back to you about it, or they leave it on the desk for a whole year. And we've seen that. You got to get respect for the product when you pass it out. So typically, people are paying for these products for the trial, typically, and then you get their involvement, and then you say, look, we'll work with you on a big announcement. If people really push to get free product, with it's a conversation to have, but it's around what does the company get from that, and also there's a lot of tire kickers in the graphene business. There's a lot of people who just want to say that they're working or talking to a graphene company, and then they're on the barbecue on the weekend and they go, oh, I was talking to a graphene company on the weekend. You can tell. So you've got to watch the tire kickers from the real guys, and you've got to get those real guys working through it. And it's hard. It's hard to work out who really is going to get there. And that's what we've spent years formulating, how we've got internal checklists and all of that, who's really, worth our time, because it's very precious. But the more salespeople we put on, the more driven we're going to focus on that. The more progress we get, the more sales we can then attract, and then you can then have more people respect, and then it blossoms from there.
Well, I think you'll answer a lot of people's questions too. If you got, I guess, more salespeople and more revenue coming in, just so many questions on that front. Let's move to the battery division then. A lot of questions on batteries as well. Let's talk about this battery development agreement with BIC in the US. Can you give us some insights on how long this process might take and the duration of this agreement with BIC? Where does it stand? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 years? Is it simply getting to an anticipated stage of battery development?
Yeah, it's they have the ability, and it'll take probably the rest of the year to get this all fixed. But for them, they've got the ability to take us all the way through to BTRL 8, which means we could work with them for a number of years if that works, and everything is going well. So we can scale up there. We can make our cells there. We can get them all tested. So it's really designed to be a long-term partnership. They've got a lot of connections themselves. We're kind of quite an innovative company, so they're kind of saying it's good to work with such an innovative company. They do like the Australian American connection, and that's also helping as well. So I think there's really no time limit on it. In fact, you could scale up through multiple versions of the product if we need to, as well. So even once we start producing our own plant, we could do that. I think that up front there's something in actually having a cell. We're making it here, and then we bring it over, and then give it to somebody else, and then it works as well. That's a big thing, because with these cells, you really do have this framework where you go, I know exactly what I'm doing, and then something will change, and you go, why did that not work this time? And it's because maybe you're doing something without even knowing it. And so when you fix all of that and you think you know what you're doing, when you actually document it and you give it to somebody else who does this for a living, not aluminum-ion batteries, but lithium-ion batteries, and this is what they do, it helps a lot, because there's this conversation going, why do you do it that way? It's like, well, we've always been doing it this way. And that's genuinely a big part of this, is being us what's called IP transfer. We're going to do this IP transfer with them, and we're going to see how it does. Do they make better cells than us? Do they make worse cells than us? And then why? So that's not nothing. That's a big thing. It is a massive thing to bring a new battery technology to life. It's not simple. We need partners. As Josh said, we're working on partners. Some big companies are working through that, more big companies than we've ever had. As we get more developed, we get more people interested. That's just how it works. There's no magic there. And I think with the BIC on our side, it also helps. So we need as many partners as we can. This is not a simple endeavor we're doing. I realize a lot of people may be invested in us for this. It is a development opportunity. It's a massive development opportunity. It's a game-changing development opportunity. But in the meantime, we have these two products already out there, and they are as big as a development opportunity or business opportunity as the battery. The thermal XRG lubricant, they literally change the game on energy efficiency. And it's the ugly sister that nobody wants to talk about. It's the fuel first choice. Nobody wants to, go to a new hydrogen or fuel source, or even a battery source. If you can just burn less of the thing that you're doing now, that would be a big help. So we've got to, as a society or community, we've got to work out how to get this energy transition going, because it isn't going well, and our energy demand products, people are now big companies are now working with us on that space, because they're realizing that the hydrogen didn't work, the lithium batteries are taking longer, and there's not much else out there to help manage the renewable energy storage. So, that is an element. It does need to be brought to the surface. And I think, with other renewable energy opportunities that haven't gone so well, demand management or energy management, which is a cost reduction exercise, not a capital expense, but a cost reduction exercise, will start to come more prominently into what people think are good for energy transition. And that's where I think we're clearly the world leader in that technology, in providing reduction of energy costs and then result of emissions. So, that is definitely core to the strategy of the company, and I think the future bodes very well for what we're doing.
Okay, a couple more on the batteries. I know we'll get to the thermal XR2, but when will we see more testing data out of the battery development? Energy density, realistic volumetric energy density, or charge cycles. When will we see more data?
I want to get the data out as fast as possible. I think everyone is in the same space as everyone there on those shareholder questions, and so we need to get this data out, but it needs to be holistic, and you need to be able to look at every dimension, and we don't want to mislead. We don't want to be telling people we got this but not that, and then it's a very complex, multi-dimensional, 9-10-dimensional outcome, and you best not to get that. You really best not to do that until you've got it all wrapped up, right? That's the thing. It's very easy to present something that says, look at this, and then just not talk about the other 7 or 8 things that aren't going well, or one thing that's not going well. It has to all work, and then you come out. Because if you come out early, it can be misleading, and we don't want to do that. And it is an optimization phase. It is the thing that every battery technology goes through. I know it's frustrating. It is something that we've got to work through on a weekly basis. We make 60 to 100 cells now, and pouch cells, and we push through it and we optimize, and then the next week. You got to understand, we've got 6 people doing the battery technology. We've done things that big companies go, well, how the hell have you done any of that? They literally call our battery team supermen. These guys that might have how many thousands of people in the battery division? We got 6. And they'll go, how have you done any of this? So, well, a very focused, small team can get things done far faster than 100 people, 200 people. I've seen it time and time again all through my career, and we're seeing it here. So when we have these big companies, these big battery companies walk through and they go, how are you getting this done? So, well, you just have a very targeted, focused outcome. And that's what we do. And, that is what we're about. So when we have reactions like that, it's confirming, but it doesn't mean we can give up. No, we just keep pushing on. We do things every day that big companies have never done. We make 100% electrode from graphene. And we've had so many companies say, how the hell do you do that? Biggest companies in the world say, how do you do that? So that's what we do. We just learned how to do it because we had to. So we did it. And then we use that. And now that's called Super G. And so we had to get people to work out how to use Super G. Like Super G is a transformative product. It's actually a slurry. You don't have to do anything to it. You just pour it on your battery. That is completely mind-blowing for the battery industry. They used to get rocks, and they still do. They get rocks, they smash them up, they heat them, they smash them up, they heat them, and then they layer them and they get some solvent and they mix it in. Ours is just water and graphene. It blows their mind. We've sent instructions over. They go, so I don't understand. I don't know how to do that. You mean just pour it on? And that's how you, no. So we are so different and we're so disruptive. And I think, that means some people need to go, wait, whoa, I don't understand this. And they take a while to adjust. Sometimes they go, oh yeah, no, I get it. Okay, I'm with you. I'm working with you. But yeah, so what we've done to get here and where we are now, I know there's nobody else doing it. I just know. And we get told that by people coming through our battery development center. So have I got faith? Yes. Do I know when I'm absolutely going to smash it out of the park? No. Do I think we can get a lot of these, things done, these commercial requirements for these batteries this year? Yes, I do. Okay. It's, it's fun. It's a lot of energy, but it also is really, you've got a lot of, as one of the biggest companies in the world says is, don't stuff this up because this is really important for mankind.
We have people on here saying that they'll join your marketing and sales team too. So you have to be excited.
Send them through.
You need to scale up, I guess.
Even
that's right. Super G. A lot of questions on Super G. How's that going to market? But let's take a couple more on Thermal XR, and then we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for sending in these questions. There are so many questions here. Thermal XR, outside of the U.S., because you don't have that EPA approval, how's that go-to-market campaign going for you? Who's testing it? When are we going to see sales? Same questions for a lot of these divisions here, Craig.
Yeah. So TXR, that was for when is that going to work? Was that the question, right? Yeah. So obviously the biggest market by far in coatings, in air conditioners is America. It just is. It's been doing it for decades, and they've far by wide that it's just something you do. You buy an air conditioner, you get it coated. Now the rest of the world is catching up on that. Australia is somewhat catching up on that. So there's a thing we've got to actually educate people. You coat your air conditioner. So that's the first thing. Then we're going to say, oh, by the way, when you use this, we have thermal radiation, and that means you can turn your fan off, and that means you can provide less energy, and that's even a bigger step. So what we're doing there is building off existing knowledge that we have, or this existing partnerships, and we have a very large property management company called Cushman & Wakefield, and they were in the last press release, and they've launched a lot of work in Australia, and that's been really good. In Singapore, and they're now working with us on Australia. So that's been really good to get a large global property management company working with us and get basically this rolled out because they've started to understand what we can do for their existing property clients. And so another approach we have is we have distributors who go, yeah, I want this country. I just want to go and do that. We find that difficult because what happens is they don't have the existing infrastructure to say, I've got all these customers I can go work with. So finding a company that has the ability to go and understand the technology and implement, but has all of the marketing ability to implement that fast is what we've got to work with. That's what we've got to focus on. and each country is different, and they're all. So America is still the hallowed land for coatings, and we are still thinking that's going to be single-digit millions a year up front, and then we're going to have OEM manufacturers. We think one or two of those coming across will be double-digit millions. That's where we're thinking, where we're sitting, when and if that, this year, next year, that's what we're hoping. That's what we're working on. And, but they're really, America is the hallowed ground. And then you really got these other countries which are starting to learn how to use coatings. And then there's the manufacturers who can then really bring completely new markets. The thing about Thermal XR is we're helping customers save energy, whereas this thing saves the customer's energy costs, and that's a big difference. And those things can change the market dynamics really fast. You can say, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm going to save my energy costs. Good, that's great. Whereas I can see how I can work with that, and I want to run with it. Let's do it fast. Whereas, I'm going to save my customers' energy costs. Oh, yeah, okay, it's a bit more complex. I've got a lot of things on, and that's why we think G-Lubricant can get there faster. We think the Thermal XR will get there. It will become the benchmark. I mean, basically, what our technology shows is that everything over 35 degrees Celsius that is aiming to reduce heat or transfer heat should be coated in Thermal XR. Everything. There's not a single thing in the world that should not be coated. And so when you get that and you go, wow, but how long will it take to get there? That's just, that's just people adopting and understanding and hearing things multiple times again, and then eventually, hopefully, buying or taking it through. Yeah, that's what it is. Whereas
coated.
Sorry.
Get some things coated. Get it in the market. I know the U.S. is a sticking point, but it's a big world out there too, right? So I feel like the more you can get these products on, the better. Yeah. And you know that though. All right. Mm-hmm. Hey, Craig, man, we've addressed a lot of questions here. Thank you everyone for sending in your questions. Still a lot to get through. So as I've been doing with Craig, I'm going to be bringing him back on my show on at least a monthly basis to address all these questions. Please keep emailing me your questions. My email address is Fleck, that is FLECK @KEReport.com. Again, Craig Nicol, founder and CEO of Graphene Manufacturing Group. Joshua George, the CFO of GMG. Guys, thank you for your time. Thanks for addressing all these questions. And everyone who tuned in, thanks for tuning in and sending in your questions.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, everyone, for their time. We appreciate it. And all the questions as well. Awesome questions. Love it.